Earlier today, I was feeling really good. And so I made a kind of feel good, goofy, kind of video. Well, a little while's passed by and I'm back to my natural, miserable self again. So I thought I'd make another video. Now, this video is a story that you may or may not care about, but it's a story. It's a true story. And it's a true story about me. Imagine if this happened to you. It's true. I'm not saying this to make anybody look bad, okay? But I'm not really talking about you guys. Again, I'm talking about me and some of my family and how this really had a huge effect on me in my life. If you're interested, I would appreciate it if you would hit that thanks button and send me a couple $100,000 each. I'm just kidding. You know what? Let me tell you. You know what made me feel bad? Let me tell y'all what made me feel bad. That last video, whenever I was joking about hit the thanks button and all that, don't give these doomsday prepper prophets all your money. Send it to me. Send it to me. I could use it. You don't need your money. I need it. And so, it's like when you're a kid and you lose a tooth and you put your little tooth under the pillow and you're just waiting for the tooth fairy to show up, and hope that he'll leave you some money. And then you wake up in the morning and you're a happy little kid because there's all kind of little change and stuff under the pillow and you're excited. Well, I kind of went back into that little kid mode today myself. I went into that mode. Yes, I did. And so I went into the thanks button, and guess what? There wasn't a damn cent in there. So I want to thank y'all. Thank you for not sending a damn thing. I'm just having some fun. I like to have fun with this thanks button thing. It's kind of funny. Okay, well, let's get to the stuff that ain't funny. Imagine this. It's true. At this point, I am exactly 30 years old, okay? And I am living in the state capital of Nevada, Carson City. And Carson City is one of the best towns I've ever lived in my whole life. I would say San Diego was number one and Carson City was number two. Colorado Springs was probably number three. Okay, I said all of that to say this. So my family were all living, at that time I had an apartment. I didn't have a house, I had an apartment. Now, my stepdad and my mother flew out to Carson City to visit us. They were going to stay with me for like a week or two. They always would come out every year to visit with us. Well, we're in the living room, in my living room, and it was just me in that living room, and it was my wife and my stepdad and my mother. And my mother said, I want you to sit down, son. I have something I want to tell you. And I knew when she said that, I said, oh boy, this is going to be something probably serious. So that's why she's asking me to sit down. So I sat down in my chair. My wife also sat down. My mother says, I've been keeping something from you for 30 years, but you're old enough now. I had to wait until you were old enough for me to tell you this story because I wanted you to be at a certain maturity level in your life where you can deal with this. And I'm at that point, I'm sitting there like going, holy shit, what's going on? She says, I'm embarrassed. I have been embarrassed for 30 years about this. But I've got to tell you. I said, okay, Mom. She says, you know your dad. I said, well, yeah, of course. He's not your dad. He's not your biological father, son. And when she said that, I don't know why, but I went, good, thank God. I don't know why I said that, but I did. But inside of me, I was crushed to the core. I guess I did that as like an ego defense mechanism possibly, and nor did I want my mother to feel bad or guilty. I really am glad that she told me that. And so we were sitting down and she said, I want to tell you something. She goes, when supposedly your dad who you thought was your dad for 30 years, he was over in Korea. And yes, I was a bad girl, and I met this gentleman, and he was from New York City. Actually, he lived, I think it was Brooklyn and also the Bronx, somewhere between those two boroughs, or I don't know. I never met the man. I never have met my biological father in my whole life. Now, whenever you hear me talk about my dad, and I say my dad was an engineer, I thought he was my dad from birth to the time I was 30 years old. He was my dad. He was the one that I told the story a long time ago about how whenever it got Christmas time, he really showered me. He really made Christmas special. Because all of the rest of the year, he was always busy working. He didn't have time for me. And we weren't really that close. Not really. We didn't hate each other, but we weren't really that close because out of sight, out of mind. He was always out of my sight. So for 30 years, I thought this guy was my dad. And there's a little more to this. I don't know where to go with it, but anyway, let me get to this one thing. She said, your biological father is he is a diamond distributor in New York. He is a Jewish man, strict Jewish man. His whole family, New York, big time Jewish people. Now back where I'm from, the Jewish people weren't really, nobody raved about them, you know. So everybody was kind of, they made jokes about the Jews and the tightwads and, you know, all that. So I kind of grew up with that kind of mentality. And so I kind of just thought the way everybody else thought. And then she told me that your real biological father is Jewish. So I'm thinking, am I Jew now? Am I Jewish? I'm Jew now? And my mother didn't really have a good answer for me because she doesn't know anything about the Jewish religion. You mean I got to start eating matzo ball soup and stuff? And wear those little hats they wear, them little, whatever you call, I don't know, whatever you call them. And so getting back to who I thought was my dad for like 30 years, all of a sudden, let me tell you what that did to me. That means that my sister is no longer really my sister. She's now my half-sister. Who I thought was my dad was born around Philadelphia, okay? So he has a lot of sisters and a brother, and they were married and they had children. They were my cousins, and we were all, well, as close as we could be for them being in Pennsylvania and me living in Mississippi. But I love these people. They were my family. Well, I remember one year, that first year, I had talked to who I thought was my dad. And I'm the one who told him that he was not my biological father. And that liked to kill me to do that because I was breaking his heart. I knew I was. And I asked him, I said, have you ever heard of a man named such and such? And he says, yeah, I remember that man. I said, he is my real biological father, not you. And I just learned about this. But I have to tell you, I can't live a lie with you. I have to tell you. And he told me, he says, you know something? He says, let me tell you something. I never said nothing because I couldn't prove anything. But I always had doubts that you were really my child. Now this was who I thought was my dad for 30 years telling me that. He goes, if you look on my fireplace mantle and you see the picture of my children, you don't look nothing like any of them. You look different. All the other ones look kind of similar, but you don't. And I thought, okay, now we're getting somewhere. So maybe that's why me and him didn't really get along that great, because he doubted that I was his son for 30 years. But we had this grown-up talk with each other. So I'm going to move on to another little thing. Well, we always, at holidays, whether it be Easter, birthdays, especially Christmas, I would always get like my grandparents, who now they're no longer my grandparents, my Pennsylvania grandparents. I called them grandmom and grandpop. That's what they called them. They were from Austria and then came to the United States and they settled around Philadelphia. And they used to send me Christmas cards and they would put a few dollars in it or send a gift or something. And all the uncles, and they would too, up in Pennsylvania. Well, that first Christmas, nothing. No cards, no birthday cards, no Christmas cards, no nothing. And what I heard through the grapevine was, well, Jim is no longer our family. We don't have to give him nothing. He don't even count. I felt like they just shut the light switch off and Jim's gone. All these people for 30 years that I thought were my uncles and my aunts and my first cousins that I thought I was close to. I thought they cared about me. I thought they loved me. They just turned the lights out on me. Do you know how that made me feel? How can people do that? It's not my fault. I didn't do anything. My mother made one of those mistakes in life. She did. She admits it to me. She made a mistake. She says, whenever your supposedly dad was in Korea, I met this man from New York. We both kind of got a crush on each other. And he was down in Mississippi on business doing something with jewelry and diamonds. I don't know what he did. Never met the guy. And he said, and we had an affair. And she said, the lucky for me, this is my mom talking, she goes, now he went back traveling or whatever he did, selling his little diamonds or whatever. Well, now my dad, who I thought was my dad, my 30-year dad, he comes back from Korea in the war. And it just happened to be at the perfect time. Because now my mother all of a sudden kind of gets pregnant, signs of being pregnant. So the timing worked out perfect for my mother so she could play this off. Okay, he flew back, from Korea to here. We're married. We do what married people do. And all of a sudden, my mother kind of starts getting pregnant, showing pregnancy after a while. It all tied in beautifully. It looked like that my 30-year dad was really my dad. So I guess I'm sharing kind of some skeletons in my family's closet, That was a lot to deal with, though, man, for me. But it's like I lost my sister. She's not my sister anymore. I had a brother. My brother now is no longer my brother. He is my step brother, but now he's nothing. He's went from brother to step brother to nothing. It's hard to explain. He had another daughter that was my half sister. Now all of a sudden she's nothing. She's nothing. I lost a whole family. I lost half of a family. And not only that, what really got to me is, you know what really puzzled me? Who am I? I lost half of my family roots. And I don't know who my real biological father is because he's dead. All I know is that he was married to somebody else, had 2 sons, which would have been my stepbrothers, and one was an attorney and the other was a physician. And they're so old. This man was a lot older than my mom. So I don't know if this guy, I don't think he's really a good moral man. He was probably in his 40s and my mother was just real young. Maybe like 20 or something, 19, I don't know. Mother never liked to talk about this stuff. But that's a true story. Life can really throw you some curves. It really did. And it was just hard to deal with. And I think about it. Now, my real biological father ended up living in Houston, Texas. and he's buried in a Jewish cemetery there. And if I ever make it to Texas, which I hope to do in the future before I die, I want to stop in the cemetery, and I want to look his gravesite up and his wife. I've already seen the headstone through that, like, find a grave. I have actually seen his tombstone, and it's got a lot of that Hebrew writing on it. I just would like to go just to, even though I don't know him, never talked to him, don't know anything about him, I'd like to pay my respects to him. I just think it would be, I think, the right thing to do. So really, I have three dads, I guess. The guy that I thought was my dad for 30 years. I've got my stepdad, the one I was telling you about, the one who was an English major in LSU, who ended up being a state police officer, a state trooper. And then there's my New York roots. So maybe I got some Yankee in me after all. Even though I'm from Mississippi, I guess I got some New York Yankee in me too. And I like the New York Yankees. And I used to like Joe Willie Namath, who played for the Jets way back. Okay, thank you for sitting and listening to all this. It's a true story, sharing a little bit more with you. That's what we do here at Jimmy Rants. I don't just rant. Sometimes I like to sit around the Cracker Barrel or the kitchen table and just tell stories. Well, this is a story that I thought I would like to share with you. So thanks for listening, okay, guys? I'm Jimmy Rants.